What's up? Today we're talking about Halloween Horror Nights 33 in Universal Orlando. This is going to be my official hype list talking about all 10 houses coming to HHN33. Now a hype list is exactly that. And number 10 will be my least hyped house for the year, and number 1 is obviously my most hyped house for the year. I will give you a fair warning, my hype lists every year never match what I think are the best houses every year. My most hyped houses disappoint, and some of my least hyped houses surprise me. That's just the nature of the game. There's not many Halloween Horror Nights houses I walk into that are bad, but obviously there's certain ones that get you really excited to go. So we're gonna dive into mine today, and I'm excited to hear what yours are as well. Also, look at me, I dimly lit the lights in my room, little spooky vibes. I'm setting the tone early. God, I'm getting good at this. Number 10, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This is gonna be a Halloween Horror Nights house based off of the 2024 movie Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Wow. Crazy, right? And to that I say, I love the Ghostbusters franchise, but I was not the biggest fan of this movie. They did say some of these iconic characters or ghosts from the Ghostbusters franchise will make appearances here, but jury's kind of out. When you have a disappointing movie and you make a house off of it, it doesn't always equal greatness. With that said, I think the air conditioning here is going to be amazing, so I'm very excited about that. And I think we'll still get some of that Ghostbusters charm. I don't think this will be a scary house to run through. I think it'll be a fun house to go through, and those can work. We've seen it with Beetlejuice and we've seen it with Ghostbusters before. But when it comes to my hype list for Halloween Horror Nights, this has to sit at number 10. Number 9 is Monstros, the Monsters of Latin America. Now, I think this might finish as easily a top 5 house and maybe a top 3 house for me this year. It was the house of the year in Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood, which is great, and it's awesome we're getting that on this coast this year. The reason it sits at number 9 on my hype list is this. The main reason is I already know what we're getting. I've seen pictures, I've seen videos of the terrifying creatures they put in here from Latin American legends, right? And it looks great. The fun thing about Halloween Horror Nights is they change houses every single year, so you're always getting something new. And while this house is new to Universal Orlando, it's not a completely new house. I think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's cool that this coast gets to experience that. But when it comes to hype, it's gotta sit at the bottom at number 9. Number 8 is Goblins Feast. Now the concept of goblins having a twisted banquet is fun and it's creepy. It's gonna feel like Halloween, you know, goblins, witches, stuff like that, it makes sense. With that said, a couple years ago we had Wicked Growth, the best houses I've ever walked through before at Halloween Horror Nights, and it won House of the Year that year. So the comparisons are gonna be there, and it's gonna be very difficult to match something at the level of Wicked Growth. I think it's gonna be a really good house, and I think it's gonna be a fun Halloween themed house. But just a couple years ago, we had something just like that that was so great. The comparisons are gonna be there. And for that, I'm a little nervous. Coming in at number 7 is Major Sweets Candy Factory. Now, this was a scare zone a few years back, and it was a great scare zone. Again, another Halloween-filled one. The blended idea of this candy turning people crazy and into horror is intriguing, and I think it's gonna make a good house. I am a little skeptical on how they're gonna be able to execute to actually be scary, right? And the scare zone took place on like a street with trick-or-treaters, and this is in an actual factory. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Now, I trust the creative team at Universal completely. They've put out some awesome original houses, and I think they'll deliver here. But when, again, one, I'm not sure how the scare zone will translate to an actual factory. Again, it's something I have an idea of what's to come in the house. We've seen something like this before in the scare zone. Similar to Goblins Feast, we've seen something like that in Wicked Growth. And Monstros, we've seen that literal house last year. So these bottom ones kind of all have a theme as I have an idea of what's coming, therefore I'm a little less hyped. At number 6, we have A Quiet Place. This is based on the popular films A Quiet Place 1 and A Quiet Place 2. This house I'm very excited for. This is where we're turning the curve from those ones that I have an idea, and this is where I don't have an idea of what's coming, which means I'm very excited. Quiet Place does have a lot of potential to create a ton of suspense as you're walking through this house, very similar to the movie. The idea of, obviously there's going to be monsters in the house, but sound being the enemy is kind of crazy and seems like a lot of fun. Where I'm skeptical on this is Halloween Horror Nights is very loud, with loud people who have been drinking. I don't know how you're going to maintain a level of quiet throughout the house. Seeing ASL in the house is going to be really cool. This, I think, is going to be a house that is awesome from the hours of 1 a.m. to 2 p.m. When the crowds kind of die down, you're not going in with as many people. Sometimes you get lucky and kind of just walk in there. The later it gets at like 1:30, 1:45 in the morning, that's when I'm really going to try to do this house. So hopefully there's not a ton of people around, so it can truly be how it wants to be. Because I know they're trying to keep it quiet and they're going to be like that. I think it's a fun risk. However, I'm not sure how it's going to be executed in a crazy theme park environment. Number 5 is Insidious. This is obviously based off the Insidious franchise. I think this is going to be a great house. This franchise, I remember seeing this for the first time when I was a kid and then watching it with my family as well, and all of us just being scared. These characters in this franchise are made for Halloween Horror Nights. I think this is going to be one of the scariest houses this year. I always like the originals better than I like the IPs because I like Universal having full creative control and making these creative houses out of nothing. But Insidious and Halloween Horror Nights, I think, are a match made in heaven. I think this is going to be a great house, and I cannot wait to go through it. And I know I'm going to be scared. Number 4 is Triplets of Terror. It's about a group of 3 siblings who are killers and celebrating their family's murder at a party. This immediately gave me like Strangers vibes, or a kind of what we call replacement house, when they have an IP that they really want and it falls through, they can't come in agreement, so they make something up. But the more I've been thinking about, this house has really grown on my list. This to me seems like a Blood Moon from last year, where it's not on a ton of people's hype lists. It's towards the bottom of a lot of people's hype lists. And it really delivers. I think this house is going to be the goriest house of them all this year, for one. And I think it's really going to have some surprises here. You're kind of blending 3 people as killers' narratives into one house. And that type of story and that type of environment and the uneasiness I think we're going to feel in that is going to be good. Now, this could very much be the one I have up here, like Spirits of the Coven a few years ago, where I had it in my top 3, top 4, and it ends up being number 10 or number 9. It definitely could be like that too, but I'm excited to walk through it. I'm excited to see how gory they make it, and I'm excited to see the story of 3 people who are triplets who are killers. I think it's a great idea. Number 3, we have Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. Now, a Universal Monsters house is back, as it is every year, and these are always some of the best houses, and I'm very excited. This technically falls under the IP, but they usually make an original story using these Universal Monsters, so it's kind of in the middle, and it's always great. This year, they're going with an all-female monster house, and it's going to feature the Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula's daughter, a descendant of Van Helsing, She-Wolf of London, which I can't believe they're actually doing She-Wolf of London. Good, obviously Bride is a top tier, but the rest of these guys are kind of B stars, I think, to it, and or kind of new characters they're coming up with this, and I think it's really going to be great. An all-female monster house where they're kind of battling it out. The Universal Monsters houses will always be the top of my hype list, and they usually always finish as a top 3 house for the year on how I rank. So they are always consistently great and always consistently hyped. And with Dark Universe right around the corner opening next year, this is going to be a house they invest a lot into deliver. I'm very excited. Top 3, and this is one of the houses that has a chance of finishing as my number 1. Number 2 is the Museum Deadly Exhibit. This house, chance to be my number 1. Or it's going to be my least favorite house, I think. We've all probably seen Night at the Museum, right? But the idea of that, but it's horrifying, is awesome. I think it would make for a great movie. So obviously I think it can make for a great house. Having all these historical characters coming to life and attacking you, or monster, like, I don't know how exactly they're going to do it, right? There's a bunch of different things racing through my head. What they come to the conclusion of, I don't know. I think it can be great. I really do. I also think it could be a bit messy. They do a great job at telling a story as you're walking through the haunted houses, which is great, because if you go for one night just to experience that, you have fun, you get scared, whatever. If you go multiple times, it's cool to unlock the story. As you go through multiple times, you start to pick up on different things, and you always see something new in these houses. They're very, very detailed, that you could walk through 20 times and miss certain things. I'm very hyped for it. I think they're going to deliver. It could be towards the bottom when I rank my list from worst to best, but a lot of hype for this one. I think this one's going to be great, and I'm excited to get to it. And this all leads to number 1, which is Slaughter Cinema 2. Slaughter Cinema was a fan favorite from a few years back. I love the idea of blending horror with some campy B movies and a bunch of different type of movies. Some of the movie ideas they have that you walk through are absolutely ridiculous, and they're awesome. So I'm excited to really see what they've cooked up this year. It's a fan favorite one. I'm confident they're going to do this fan favorite right. It's easily my most hyped house, and is one of the ones I think can deliver as the best house this year. We need some merch for it, by the way, Horror Nights. All right, so that concludes my list of most hyped houses. We are about a month away from being there. I will be doing more videos as we come closer to it on seeing all the construction new things out there, and then obviously opening weekend and the weeks following that, we're going to be doing vlogs from there. It's going to be super exciting Halloween Horror Nights season. If you have a hype list, leave it in the comments. Let me know what you're most hyped for. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you on Thursday.